The show's about Portland, as is the book, but I mentioned your quote from the Atlantic interview that you did at the opening of the show. The more specific we are about Portland, the more it translates to a broader audience. Why do you think that that's true?
Well, I think part of it is just people in communities and cities and neighborhoods like Portland around the world recognizing themselves and seeing themselves for the first time. So I think the more specific we are, the more people can kind of relate to it and delve into their own experiences, and that's the way that they kind of find humor and, you know, reference in the show. So I think it serves us well to be specific instead of doing a lot of, you know, broad comedy.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, I talked at the beginning of the show about how much at home I felt here. And it was because throughout my adult life, I had gone to all of these other cities and lived in them and found places that were exactly like this, but just in smaller forms, mm-hmm. you know? So I think that, yeah, people just don't realize that Portlandia really is everywhere. You know?
Certainly, yeah. It's surprising, you know, people in Australia or Sweden relating to the show. But
yeah.
It's great.
Well, I wanted you to read a piece that you had written for, and I don't know if you want to give it a little background about the character that this is coming from. Here we go. Get the Gear.
Okay. Get the Gear is written from Kath and Dave, and I mean, Kath is not too much different from me. In the sense that, well, if I wore more fleece, and I had a long ponytail, I call Kath's ponytail the lone pone. It's just kind of an isolated, sad thing that just hangs down her back. But I can relate to that somehow. But I do relate to her sense of self-righteousness when you see something wrong. It's easy to fall into that mind frame. Anyway, her and Dave like to perform at their relationship and at life. So this is their list for getting the gear when you're getting ready to go out. There's a lot of things you need. Get the gear. Remember, an adventure is anything that happens outdoors. Before leaving your house, make sure you have the following gear. This checklist. This checklist enclosed in a plastic sleeve in order to prevent water damage. A photocopied version of this checklist placed not on your person. Perhaps placed with your travel companion or in a secret compartment. Think kangaroo pouch. A flashlight or mag light with which to read this checklist at night or in case of a power outage or storm. A backpack with at least 5 discrete compartments, and ideally 75 compartments, in a nondescript color, but with neon or boldly colored accents, but that does not draw unwarranted attention. 4 reusable water bottles with various caps to suit one's drinking needs. 1 for gulping, 1 for sipping, 1 for social drinking, and 1 for panic swallowing. Chapstick with a tightly sealed cap that will not take on sand. Active lifestyle, waterproof, shade-proof, weatherproof, fun-proof sunblock. Water-resistant coat, pants, and shoes. Rainproof is not enough. Get the ocean-proof brands. Land to water, back to land sandals. Toe shoes. Get the 11-toed ones so that you have an extra. Hiking boots. Make sure they can be worn on volcanoes and not just mountains. A crunchy energy bar for vigorous mouth chewing and lively conversation. A soft energy bar for relaxing. Fire and asteroid blanket and a flotation sleeping bag.
She was prepared. If you're just joining us, that was Carrie Brownstein reading from Portlandia, a guide for visitors on Livewire Radio. I mean, when you read that character is so distinct, you know exactly who that person is. And I think that it felt like in the second season of the show, you guys really actually drew some deeper characters. Was that a conscious choice on your part, or did that just evolve?
I think it was both, but it was certainly a conscious choice. I think when the creators and writers of the show think about the television that we love watching, I think what brings us back is character. You know, we don't want to be a conceptual show. You know, ultimately, we want people to find a way into the show, and I think that as we evolve, can only happen through character. So especially in season 3, which we've already filmed and will start airing in January, we draw a lot from the characters you guys have already seen, and you know, we have some new characters, but we really wanted to give those people a backstory and make them more multidimensional and just, you know, kind of realize them a little more than we had before. So yeah, that's very important to us.
Well, and you're at it. You're also Chloe Sevigny is going to be in the cast.
Yes.
Of the show.
Yeah.
So how is she going to play into things?
We go on the mayor sends us on a mission, like a kind of like missionaries to proselytize the religion of Portland, and
what is that religion? What would you say that is? How would you define that?
Oh gosh. You know, we end up referencing the Timbers a lot, actually. But
sorry, that's Portland's soccer team.
Yeah, we end up going up to Seattle, and we can only get one person from Seattle that wants to move to Portland, and it's her. And we tell her, we don't have jobs, we just have chores.
Just like children. You and Fred actually went on a live tour last year, and you actually performed some of the material live. How different? And he's used to that on SNL. You're used to being in front of a live audience in a band, but that was pretty new for you, right? Performing comedy in front of an audience.
Yeah, it was horrifying. It was just. I felt so nauseous and sick for the first couple shows, but it was which I love. I mean, I don't want to vomit on stage, but I have always felt that, you know, that moment that feels dangerous or uncertain is a great place to be, especially in a live setting. And I got used to it, and we had a great time. Mostly because I am used to performing and connecting to an audience. In a live setting. In Portlandia, as a TV show, you don't really get to meet the people that actually enjoy it and watch it, so it was a real privilege to be able to meet our fans across the country.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's like a sort of a series of short films, the show. Mm-hmm. I actually saw you play with Wild Flag at Doug Fir Lounge here in Portland, mm-hmm. and I have to say, you were talking about this sense of nausea and, you know, being really scared. I have to say that I had never seen you perform. And you it just looked like unadulterated joy and comfort, you know? And so I wonder, like, is that true? Is that how you're feeling, or are you just putting on a really good front?
No, I mean, I think certainly the live aspect of performance has always been something I've embraced, is being able to kind of transcend this sort of like cerebral, you know, place that we get stuck in, and we get kind of, you know, bogged down in the minutia of conversation and discourse, and, you know, it's really nice to just be able to connect with people in a way that doesn't have to do with that. And there's moments in performing Portlandia that feel like that too, you know, just that you kind of get outside your head and you get to improvise. So I really relish that mm-hmm. quite a bit. Mm-hmm.
Well, and you said in your last Monitor Mix post, you actually said that music has been your salvation. What would you say that comedy has meant to you in your life?
I think comedy has allowed just that part of me that's always embraced the absurd, and music is something that I take pretty seriously, and I think there's an earnest factor that will always permeate my relationship to music. And even though that exists in Portlandia, I like the silliness. Like, I like the playfulness that we're allowed to sort of just kind of roll around in and mess around in. And I think that is sort of the other side of my personality. So I'm glad to be able to explore that with Fred, who I love dearly.
Well, and he loves music as well. Have you guys talked about integrating more music into the show, or do you want to keep those two things separated?
Jonathan Kreisel, our director and co-creator, really doesn't like either me or Fred's music very much. I mean, he was a fan of Slater-Kinney, but I think that I think we do love incorporating music into the show, but I think that we tend to, we don't try to, strong arm that in. We have a lot of musical themed sketches this year, and we did last year too, but it doesn't tend to be me or Fred's music.
Yeah.
Yeah.